Okay, yep. All the volume should be on right now, so maybe I'll switch to the other window right now, so I think this will be a little bit better, so. Right, so hi everybody, this is CVGS, I'm the Captain here, and welcome to our discussion stream here on YouTube. And today is kind of a day that I thought that I was going to be talking about much later, but as it turns out, I think it's better to be spoken about sooner rather than later on. So, and that is, of course, if you guys have followed our socials, we've been talking about it a little. If you've been with us on the Tuesdays Vanguard live stream, you guys will have known that we're actually going to be talking a little bit about Vanguard in general, like the state of Vanguard that it's currently in right now. So, as I swap over to the other one, news-wise, we didn't get a lot of it, but the most important news that came out of that was the introduction of the rule change for standard overdress. So for overdress, hi Luke, good to see you. For standard overdress, you now can only play. Actually, I should bring up the English version of it, shouldn't I? Give me a second while I bring up the English version, since there is already an English version and it's also applying to the English side, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it's worthwhile that we actually take a visit to there. So just give me a moment while I bring it up. Ah yes. So here we go. Alright. Hi Samuel, hi Rain, good to see everybody here. Thank you so much for joining me today. So yeah, essentially, the big news was that there's a update to the fighters rules update. So there'll be new card regulation that'll be added to fighters rules for standard. That will be affected. And basically speaking, oops, I jumped over. Basically speaking, right now you can only have up to 8 cards of the above trigger types. So you can only have 8 criticals, you can only have 8 draws, and you can only have 8 fronts. So for those of you that were there on Tuesday over on Twitch, Leon was there for some time, and then he was just checking out the rule change and all that. And we did talk a little bit about how you know it's come to this, that they actually have to invoke such a big rule change to it. And this kind of like really assuages my worries quite a bit in terms of where the game is going on, especially when they introduce a third critical in the game. So because when they introduce a third critical in the game, right, immediately we think, oh, you know, they're just gonna play 11 crits now immediately or so. And for a good amount of time, right, I actually should have this prepared. I think I forgot to do so. Just bear with me at the moment. And for a good time, I honestly believe that maybe after like 6 months of Vanguard actually being here we go. Actually, about 6 months right after, you know, people have been conditioned out of like 8 critical builds, right? You know, like I asked the question to people, and I was talking with Leon about this for a while. So I just kind of like, you know what, let me just get everybody's opinion, because I think it's a good topic that we're having, and so I kind of carry forward to like just talk to everybody else about it also. So yes, essentially, new crits coming to DBD03, and after about like 9 months of players being conditioned to play like maximum 8 crits in deck. So do you think we'll see builds that are more than 8 criticals? Would you mod to 8 plus decks? Let me know why too as well. So we got a majority of people actually saying yes, they will see 12 criticals from there. So, oh nice, congrats, you got a PS5 last week, congrats. So yeah, are you making clan collection tier list? No, I'm not making a clan collection tier list. So I already done that already. Like in the last live stream, already done that already. So I already made a tier list already. So that was a couple of discussion streams ago. So yeah. But essentially, some of the responses that I got from people, including some more prominent names in the Vanguard Twitterverse. So 11 criticals is gonna be by Melorota Matt. 11 critics is gonna be a mass scene due to the minimal guard that we have in Overdress. So that it's easy to just push through with non-stop criticals. So fronts and draws don't work that well for Eugene, especially as Eugene usually attacks rear guards, vanguards, and rear guard. So for certain decks, right, so Kage has got points. Certain decks actually work better with the actual criticals in play. So, but to allow that means that other decks are actually gonna not be able to kind of like do that. So yes, Sleepy Kazu joins the chat. So you should go to Sleep Kazu. So then of course Diablo's Boys Jared, 11 crit greed on baby. I consider draws, but he refills board enough to not matter. So gonna make the Gangster Dragons deadly as possible. So but yeah, like it just goes to highlight that how 11 criticals or 12 criticals are something that's just a little bit more viable for people, especially in certain builds also. And this two is highlighted by Sokage. And Matt just kind of like bring up the good point in that you know, kind of bring up the good point that that 11 criticals will be mainly seen also, because it's going to be so much easier, and the fact that the guards in Overdress is actually much lower compared to V series, so like it's just going to be a lot more easier for that also. And that kind of like really got me worried, you know, like about how things are going to turn out once DBT03 drops, especially on the Japanese side. And then, you know, we just kind of kind of went from there. So yeah, as mentioned by DS11 Studios, I apologize if I actually do some of those weird things, because I have an ulcer on my tongue. So sometimes if I accidentally bite my tongue, it will cause me to do that. So yeah. A nice pop on the chat. Yeah, I realized that the chat was a little bit invisible in the setting that I did, so I kind of did it this way. So that's why so it's a bit more easier, so you guys can kind of see like what's being said from there. So it's a good thing. So I 8 front street crits, 1 over for my triggers in office. So yeah, so it is a good first move that they're actually doing. You know, that they're actually kind of doing this. And of course, next week we're actually going to be finding out about premium format. There's actually going to be an additional rule announcement effective immediately. Some people are saying ban list. I think that likely there's a ban list going to happen. But for today's discussion stream, right, because we didn't get much in terms of card news, and it is released with DBO3. So what I want to do more, right, is just really kind of like do something that I actually wanted to do much later on, and that is actually stop and critique Vanguard for what it is right now. So what I've done on Twitter, if you guys have been on Twitter, what I've done actually is I put in under regards by regards. I kind of asked everybody, hey guys, I'll be reading and discussing play grievances about Vanguard currently in today's. Let me just blow this up so it might be easier to see. There we go. Although FDS is kind of bigger, but I think that's fine. So I'll be reading, so I'll be reading and discussing player grievances in Vanguard currently for tomorrow's discussion stream. So leave your own out for me to read. You guys can also put your own grievances as well, and I'll read them out just as much. And we'll kind of like just really stop and really kind of discuss like this also, because all this is part of like the review that I want to kind of give Vanguard in this discussion stream also. And you guys are also part of the discussion as well, so feel free to agree, disagree, let me know. Like let's talk about it. So that's really kind of like the main thing over here. So right, so I love power more than damage also. Well, regardless, yesterday Vanguard live stream and the rule change got me triggered. So okay, for me I only run 6 crits in my Bastion. I also heard that they also added the Grade 0 triggers in Vanguard 0. So yeah, they've now said that they added Grade 0 triggers already. They started with a heal trigger, which every clan is actually going to get a heal trigger, and it basically will work as a 15k shield. And it activates when you're about to be hit, when you're about to lose actually, if I'm not mistaken. So it'll activate, and then if it will take priority over PGs, so if it can be guarded off by that. So heal triggers are all coming in. There's also critical triggers and soft stand triggers as well. They are all introducing trigger units into G, because G was really the time when triggers with skills was actually very meaningful. So them introducing this right into G and not actually implementing them right something will feel a lot missing, because the triggers is really what made everything about G really kind of like great and fantastic in that regard. So yeah. Yes, hi Edric. Yes, your ban list will be in there, and we'll talk about it a little bit more also, but not in too much detail, because Brendan actually is going to be doing a restriction list discussion for premium. So he'll talk more in length with that. I'll touch upon it, but he'll talk more in length on Friday. So I will leave it to him to kind of like do things with that. So nice, no more rush from grade 1. So that's true. Yeah, you can rush out from there. Talks about which deck are affected by this rule change in standards. So all decks are affected by this also, but honestly speaking, right, most of like we're discussing it further, but we'll get into this like discussion, and then we just go off from there. So right. Anyways, so we start with Kazu over here. So she says, always gets new update but didn't support old builds, or they forgot about the old builds. So this is actually really true, because it's been emphasized and talked a little bit also by people like Auto Orange. Auto Orange has also kind of like mentioned about this in her video about unpopular videos also. Actually, I should really start off. So the reason why I wanted to do this discussion is because of the fact that I saw DOVA-Fight's video, and DOVA-Fight is mentioned like things are getting heated in the Japanese Vanguardverse, because a lot of people were kind of very miffed about what's going on in Vanguard right now. Now they're using additional crits, then suddenly the game no longer becomes fun, and there's a whole lot of worries that the community has, so that's not being addressed by the by Bushiroad themselves, so by Mori-san, by Kidani, or whoever it is in the fact. So this is kind of like really got me kind of like thinking up over there. And then of course we ended up getting the news that they're limiting critical triggers in Overdress. So that's fine and dandy, but I think there should be more to it. And we'll talk about that in greater detail later on. So essentially it started off with this, and then we got the news that they're limiting the triggers. And what's also being said about it, right, is that Mori-san actually took the opportunity to go with the Tuesday's Vanguard live stream in its earliest convenience, and he addressed the issues that the Vanguard community has kind of been raising since Friday. So he took the first opportunity to actually really talk about it, and then he actually released a letter as well. So in fact, I should find the producer's letter. I should find the producer's letter. So I know Different Fight had it, but hang on, but essentially not this one. We want the later ones. So producer's letter archive. Oh wait, no, I might have to actually look up Different Fights ones. So give me a second, guys. But basically, what he kind of really talked about, right, was the fact that he addressed it. So hang on, let me just see if I can find it. Doko desu ka? Sorry about this, guys. Let me just go to Different Fights. Twitch page. Alright, and of course, oh sorry, should go here. So yeah, so Dev was the first one to know about the issues in Vanguard on Twitter. So yeah, he is, because he's actually following the Japanese Twitter site, which because I'm not able to speak the language, so it's been difficult for me to actually just kind of really talk about it. So I'm ready here. So it's kind of really difficult to talk about it. So but essentially like he is the one that kind of like really reported on this. This is what we're looking for. So this is kind of like what we're looking for. So producer Mori actually said, hello, this is Kenta Mori, the Vanguard Project's general producer. We announced new updates to the fighter rules for standard today, that decks will only be able to include up to 8 triggers at the same time for critical triggers, draw triggers, and flood triggers. This update will take effect from September 24th. I mentioned in the recent producer's letter volume 3 that the play environment for standard was within our expectations, but the development team has been scrutinizing and reviewing both the current play environment and the environment after release of Advance of Intertwined Stars, which is DBT-03. So as a result, although it's earlier than we expected, we have added restrictions that we see as necessary this time. We deeply regret causing users anxiety over this issue and sincerely apologize for it. So, in addition, the update to the fighters rules for premium will be announced next week during the live stream on September Tuesday. So this is the premium edition and will take effect on 1st October. So we continue to work towards allowing our users to enjoy the game, and thank you for your continued support, Cardfight Vanguard. So yeah. With this in mind, right, like with this absolutely in mind, like he really took the time to really just kind of like swiftly address the concerns from there. So, and then of course Kidani came on, and then in the GC's live stream, he's kind of like added on to what he said, and he also mentioned that he's going to be spending more time on helping out with the Vanguard side. So because Kidani is running, I think he's like one of the board members or one of the lead creative people in Bushiroad, and so he has his hands on a lot of things with the music scene on Bushiroad side, pro wrestling, as well as like the card game stuff as well with White Swords and everything. And yeah, so basically he's actually going to be how do I say this? So he's actually going to be spending a bit more time to actually help out with Vanguard side. So you might see some few changes happening in Vanguard as we talk about. So DBT-04 might not see anything stuff because I think DBT-04 set stuff might be. So if you're going to expect some changes, right, it'll have to be in 2022, which is my opinion on that. But this is kind of like the reason why I wanted to really kind of stop and just really talk about Vanguard and just review like all these things, like review all of this, like review all of this, all these things that I bought over here. So especially since it's been 6 months now that Overdress has been released. And yeah, so it is what it is. My favorite character is Aichi Sendo. So thank you for that. So how will rate the Bushi stream last night? So from 1 to 10. I wouldn't really rate the stream yesterday. Like it is what it is. Like, you can't really, there's no real reason to really rate a news show. Like, would you rate like your local news based on how eventful or how uneventful thing is? No, that doesn't make any sense. So what we're here to discuss really, right, is just kind of like some of the grievances also, and we'll come back to here. So always get new updates, but didn't support old builds and they forgot about old builds. So as I was saying, yeah. So as I was saying with the new updates, right? Like new cards always get updated, but then sorry, I forgot to switch over. So since I did the ban list so bad, so yeah. So basically speaking, the cards that are actually getting updated are actually not there's also updates, but then older builds kind of get left behind also, and that's kind of sad also. But that was an issue that's happened since G era actually, since G era. So since G era, this actually has been a common thing from there, and up to now they still haven't kind of like fixed it in a way. So the V-Clan collections that they have actually you know, the V-Clan collection they've actually released, right, is still kind of doing that because it's pushing things forward, because we're getting reverse units in like Clan Collections Volume 3 and 4. We're getting reverse units, 5 and 6 also getting more reverse units, and I think they're playing off more towards what's released in the V-Clan collection, so which brings up to another point that somebody else made, so which I think I will hop over. Where is it? So where is it? Here we go. So Vimera actually said, the only problem that I have is the lack of V basic product. Sure, with some clans you can get to buy a playset for each clan selection and only missing a starter and 2 sets of triggers, but some don't have this luxury. V needs the idea I pitched on Twitter, some kind of trainer's toolkit like product where you can have everything important for the nation. Individual clans will be too much, then you can join with clan selection and just be reprints of usable grade 1s, grade 2s and grade 3s and so. I'm not certain about a trainer's toolkit because there are some other games that have done that, but it's a lot more easier to kind of really do it. So, okay, no problem, Luke. So, no problem at all. So basically speaking, right, this true as I said, and I've talked to Leon about this as well. So, currently right now, right, there is a problem whereby players who actually start in Overdress, you know, they start in Overdress, they're having fun with it, they think Vanguard is a great game, and then they start seeing the product lineups, and then they realize that, oh, this is actually for a different format that I've been hearing people talk about online. So then they get into they look into what V Premium is, they find out the premium format, the past 10 years of Vanguards, and then you know what, they decide that, hey, you know what, I think I'm going to try V Premium also, because these cards looks pretty sick, looks pretty cool. But the key problem right now, right, is that if they only access, right, to the V series is through the V-Clan collection, they actually cannot make a complete deck because the set itself does not include some of the more core cards that some decks might need. Some of which includes triggers, a proper first Vanguard, not say a proper first Vanguard also, but a first Vanguard in any sense. Triggers, let alone sentinels because of the draw PZ, so on and so forth, and many other things as well. So if they were to actually try and get into the V series, if they only go by the product release, they're not gonna be able to actually play in V series. It's kind of like blocked off to them by quite a bit. So, you know, like how do I say this also? So if it's blocked out, right, that means that they have to delve into the secondary market, and then there might be some people, right, that actually like it's in the control of the secondary market from there. So people who have these triggers, right, that they might be looking for in order to get started may decide that, you know, hey, these cards are actually in little high rarity also. So even though they're commons, even though they're much needed for the deck, I can still charge people like quite a good penny because there's nowhere else they can get it also. So control from there, see you later, Luke. Control from there actually kind of puts into the secondary market, and so it kind of bones a few people, especially coming to like more important cards I talked about, like say like I mentioned the PGs for the draw PGs basically, or the sentinel crates from there. Like those two things, right, will basically where most of people's monies will have to be dropped into, and where most people can kind of like hike up the price. So it's very difficult to even build a clan, you know, if you don't have a basic draw deck. So like you mentioned, so DS101, it's difficult to build a clan which does not have a basis like a draw deck or even a start deck as well. Exactly, and not to mention that the start decks, right, for V series, what was the last one? Was it the Aqua Force one? Like, where's the last? No, the last one was actually the Valkyrion deck. So unless you decide to play Genesis, and even if you decide to play Genesis, you might actually have a hard time finding the start deck to really kind of like get your sources from. So like combined with Vemeros, right, and in touch with Kazu's comment, like these two kind of like go hand in hand junction together. So yeah, especially like Melancholia. So there's a lot of clans, right, especially clans that don't have like trial decks or anything. Everything all comes from the boxes and such, right? Like not there. So like it's very difficult for them to kind of like really go through there. So it was the G series. This is a source of G series, but combined with something like this, combined with this comment basically, and it kind of like compounds together. So yeah. No, we're talking about in general, like for V series. Sorry. Also in my tongue, so I apologize. Try 3 are the last trial decks in G. Oh, sorry. Try 3. Yeah, you know, correct. You're right. Try 3 actually has those trial decks also. So yeah, so they have those are the last trial decks, and if they Royal Paladin is fine, but then these decks were so popular that they kind of sold out like quite quickly, and they're not doing any reprints. So even more so, like a lot of people are gonna have a hard time finding like triggers for relatively cheap price in many ways. And even then also, sellers can actually decide to hike up the price of the trial deck because of how out of print it is. So people will be looking to get like collector's money out of it also. So even more kind of like, it's difficult to actually just get into that. So DS Studios, I want to build Silver Thorns, but V Lukia is like 35 pieces. So yeah, so like you see like coming out in the Weekend collection, right? Lukia reverse, and whether if it has like interaction with the original Lukia, it doesn't matter, because the original Lukia, right, will actually be a very good card to help out with the Silverthorn deck in general. So it is somewhat of a good get for any player. And if they're gonna go in the secondary market, CCG player, 50 cards, whoever else is selling that, so then you know, depending on whoever is particularly selling the thing, they might actually charge a person very high. And so like all of a sudden, right, their investments into V may end up being too expensive that they'll just stick to Overdress, because Overdress is so cheap as it is. I only need to spend like $6 Singapore, $3.99 just for a trial deck. Just for a start deck, and I actually can go in. A start deck can actually get me quite far as well. Then I can buy it to the boosters, I can buy a pack, it's not too expensive, like maybe $5 a pack. You know, I can get some cards, and then, you know, if I decide to buy a box, it's good enough. Like, you know, a lot of good things can come from people just buying from the box, and it keeps people very more inclined to stay in Overdress and not look at V series because of V series being too expensive. Being so expensive as it is. So, hi, I guess. So, good to see you. Especially because Alma is one of the more staple grade 2s, which is Livarot. So yeah, especially so. So exactly why. So one of the grievances that players currently have right now is just inaccessibility towards other formats. Especially if Vanguard, for as fun as it is, right, piques people's interest. And you know, it goes on from there. So it kind of goes on from there. So I'll start with the ones on Twitter, but you guys can post your own as well. I will read it out. Virina always getting spotlight on DE supports, while Eugene gets the short end of stick for DE supports. So this one is actually very pertinent because of the fact that certain decks, right, are always going to be the focus because they play a part in the anime. And I've said before that neither the anime nor the game, right, should influence each other. So, but the fact that Virina is the poster, like Yu rather is the poster character for Overdress. He's in all the boxes. Even Lyrical Monastery is in the box over there. So, so it's always gonna be Virina. It's gonna be over there. So, but then other decks like Eugene, and you know, later on we're getting the Miwe deck. We're getting the Buff Zagara deck as well. That's gonna get some focus as well, because it's gonna be an important deck, right, for the anime itself, and a lot of people will be looking forward to what we're seeing over there. So. Cheapest I get looking at $31, and that's before shipping as well. So yeah, expounds my point even further. So with you know, with certain decks actually getting the full support, they kind of fixed it a little bit, because DBT04, and I've talked about this before in should be Overdress, not Buddy Fight. So yeah, booster set volume 4. We'll go to where is it? Here we go. So they kind of fixed it a little bit, because right now they're saying that they're taking 5 commons away, and they're actually including another 5 triple R's in there, meaning that all of the Vanguards, all of all of the Ace Vanguards, right, all the right decks, right, is going to get triple R support, meaning that they'll get something significant in DPT-04. And while this adjusts this problem here, it's still not going to change the fact, right, that boosting wise, right, like we've seen some people discuss about it. So we've seen some people really kind of like really discuss about it. And the fact that like certain decks, right, are actually not up to par compared to certain ones. Like back to the video from Different Fight over here, so which I won't play because YouTube, so it's gonna give us a copyright claim from there. So, but essentially, like from this, right, like from this video over here, right, like people are kind of like making a lot of noise about how Bruce, the new card for Bruce, is actually a little bit overpowered. Let me actually bring it up. So DPT-04 in the wiki. So let me bring this up in the wiki. So DPT-03, sorry, it should be DPT-03, not DPT-04. So Advance of Intertwined Stars. So like this card came out for Bruce, and you read this skill. Color box 1 and put a regard into your soul. Choose one of your opponent's regards for every 4 cards in your soul and retire it. Then if you're in final rush, look at the same number of cards from the top of your deck as the number of your opponent's open regard circles. Choose any number of unique cards from among them, call them to regard circles, and put the rest into your soul. So like the fact that it has something like this, right, which is actually pretty super powerful. And like this is just one example. I think other people kind of like really cited Leonard to be a stronger problem because of the fact that he can actually do multi attacks. So like when he's doing an attack, soul charge 1. Then if your Vanguard is Diablo's Bruce, choose up to 1 card from your soul according to open regard circle. So instead of the 3, right, you can actually get 4, 5, maybe even 6 as well. There's combinations out there that actually have people actually doing 7 attacks in 1 turn. So Bruce got majorly spoiled. So yeah, exactly. Bruce got majorly spoiled. A lot of people kind of identify it. So the only reason why myself and Leon and others here at CVGS haven't made a big hoo-ha about it is because we're 10-year veterans. We've been playing the game for 10 years, and this is shenanigans, right, that we've seen before. And so because we've seen before, right, we kind of know what to expect, and we know how to prepare for it. That is V level of skill, exactly. So imagine a new player who's new into the world of Vanguard suddenly sees this combination played off by Bruce, and I was like, wait, like multiple attacks? Like my Verena can do 5, but holy, what, 7? What? This is a super powerful deck. How am I even going to defend against this? It's super powerful. A lot of people look at this card, right, and think that it's overpowered. Veterans like us won't say that it's overpowered. It's something that we're known for, so we don't really kind of like see really the power scaling for that. And numbers have shown in remote fights, there's a lot of Bruce players, but not a lot of Bruce players actually top. So the data from there, right, really kind of shows that it's. I'm not saying that you know where it came from is the fault here, but it's understandable where the criticism lie. And if you look at cards like this, and then you go to cards like what's a good example? Dynamaru. Go to Dynamaru. When this unit is placed on the regard circle, if your Vanguard named Silverhorn Beast Magnolia, if your Vanguard is Magnolia, so +1, choose one of your Vanguards at turn, this unit can attack from back row and +5k. So like compare that. I can attack multiple times versus I can have another unit attack from the back row on top of, you know, whatever that I can get from Magnolia. The power difference is kind of there. So the power difference is kind of really there. And so it leads us to reach the conclusion, right, that there might be certain decks, right, especially when I look at this, right, that it's a little bit scaled too high, whereas there are others that are actually not scaled as high. Like Magnolia is underrated, you can say. I agree as well, but like it's not really kind of like pushed. It's not really kind of like pushed off from there. And in the fact that it seems to be not just as great. Like even we look at this, right, having the option to tire, having the option to reinforce your field from the top of your deck, and you know, so on and so forth from there. Compare that to, I should have this on a separate window. Compare that to Virina Expector, or even Howlitzer for Eugene. When this unit is placed on the regard circle, if your Vanguard is Eugene, put a card from your soul, draw a card, choose one of your opponent's grade 2 or greater regards, and retire it. When this unit attacks, right, so +1, this unit gets +2k until the end of the battle for each of your opponent's open regard circles. Compare that to this, which has somewhat of a similar, somewhat same conditions but different skills, different effects actually pulling off also. And this seems a bit more powerful compared to this. So yeah, and the tournaments are taught by Bastion also, and that's something else I want to get into as well. So yeah, so exactly why it seems like we're shooting on the game. So and we'll get to the more things of that. But you guys kind of see my point, right? That you guys really kind of like see my point, really. The fact that right, that certain cards right seems to be a bit overpowered compared to everything else also, and it just makes things seems like a bit favored towards certain things. So when I see this comment here, it sympathizes with me, because it seems that certain decks are actually getting a bit more of the spotlight because they're where they need to be. But what that translates to, meaning that they're actually not bringing some of the other ones like Eugene support, like Office support, like Zorga support, so on and so forth from there, and they're introducing new right decks at the same time as well. Like these cards, right, minus the new right lights, right, doesn't seem to be so far up to match compared to what has already been established, especially since they had like 3 boxes of boosting from there. So yeah. So exactly why that's another pin that we can put over there. The fact that boosting right just doesn't seem to be on par. Like and even if it's not on par, right, it seems that the same decks are actually being continued to be put on the top, whereas others are actually not gonna be able to put on top also. So that's really kind of a thing. Ban list, please. So yeah, so a lot of people will talk about a ban list, and then we didn't get a ban list. And of course we do have Edric's suggestion for a ban list. So you know, like set the cards to be banned, and some only having 1 copy only as well. Choice restrictions, so on and so forth from there. Like 100%. It's been a long time since we've seen a restriction list in the G era. When was the last restriction? When was the last time that we actually got a restriction list? Got news about restriction list? Like when was the last time that we got it? So hang on, huh? So restrictions. Here we go. So from May 2001, the rules apply to trigger. Oh, sorry, not this one. This is for Extreme Fight. Like most of these right are actually really super old. Like all this has been in place for a very long time. Like for a very long time, it's actually been in place also, and it hasn't been changed up since what, 2018? Project Vanguard 2018. Like all this stuff hasn't been changed since 2018. Like it's been 4 months since no ban list. So yeah. So you know, even more so the fact that there hasn't been a balance for that. That's one of the biggest problems, because they've been so focused on trying to make more of the game that they really neglected like the restriction list and player outcry, especially when we talk about the big 6 over there also, which I think are highlighted by Edric over here. So some of them like Daimonas, the Fenrir loop, I think somebody mentioned them over here. Strike Victory Taro, I think somebody mentioned it somewhere, but I can't remember where it was. Was it on Twitter? I can't remember. I think it might be on Twitter. So, but yeah, like basically, Gastil Daimonas, the Taro because of the Fenrir Wiseman loop as well. Ultima with an over trigger, you know, Ultima with over trigger. Star Pop Dragon copy 1. Actually, no, that's not really that broken. So, not too much also. But yeah, I mean, like a lot of things, right, that's actually prevalent in Vanguard right now, especially with Overdress being released for 6 months. We actually haven't gotten anything also. So yeah, exactly. So Bushro is horrible with ban lists also. They don't do ban lists, they do restriction lists rather. So because they kind of believe that they're of the belief that ban list just makes it like a card actually worthless, because you're never gonna be able to play that card, so the card doesn't see any value whatsoever. And if it's a high rarity one, like say Daimonas, immediately right, everybody will just kind of like throw away their Daimonas because there's no money in it. So or nobody will look for Daimonas. So anybody that's wanting to sell Daimonas won't be able to sell it. So Same with Ultima as well also. Same with the cross, same with everything also. Everything that you see here. So that's why they kind of like made it, not say a ban, but they do a restriction list, so restricted to one, or you know, you can't use this as the first Vanguard, so on and so forth from there. So they haven't really supported, they haven't really done any sort of like proper boosts. Not say boosters, they haven't done any sort of proper like caretaking for the game for a significant amount of time. So, and that's kind of like one of the more unfortunate. Another pin that we can put over there. Then how am I the first person to have topped in New York City Phantom Blaster Dragon D standard, because no one else had the wherewithal to use 8 draws for consistent resource availability. So this is proven by records also. Well, that's the thing. People are the idea of Overdress, right, was really to get people to kind of like be creative with the place in there. But the problem with Overdress that's been highlighted is that a lot of the cards that we're getting, right, seems to be filtering into specific builds. So instead of the wide open range that we were told we probably would get when they changed to the nation system, it still feels like the clan system, because there are certain cards, right, that only go with Bruce. There are certain cards that can only go with Baron Magnus, can only go with Greedon. Same for the other nations as well. So same for the other nations as well. Like, there is no, and all the generic cards, right, all the commons and rares in there, right, are technically cards that you never even consider. There are a lot of cards that I went between Bruce and Baron Magnus, and I see a lot of the common cards, right, and I'm thinking, I can't use any of this. And that goes the same for when I actually got the when I actually got the cards from even the VBTs as well. All the common cards, right, even it's for the specific clan, right, doesn't seem to have any place in my deck. The only ones that I really have the place in this deck is if they're shiny, rare to certain as far as they can go. But a lot of cards, right, especially boosting wise, right, for commons as well, it's like it's not there. Like, it's not significant enough for me. And Overdress is kind of just as bad, especially when they touted that, oh, with the nation system everything's open up, so any card within the nation can go into any deck. That's cool, but when your only cards in the generic space, it's cards like the Dragon Empire Grade 1 that when discarded it actually moves into the soul. When this card is discarded for a cost, it moves into soul. Other cards like like that's really the only one that comes to mind, but there are a few others as well. There's very good examples as well. But that just goes to show just how much of the generic space is actually not being utilized to really kind of like broaden people's exercise people's creativities. Instead, right, we've gone back to seeing the Sabi builds for all the Bruce decks, all the Bastion decks, so on and so forth. So, well, as Valkyrian, who was the grade 5, they did not make it. So, I do not know. I honestly cannot answer you why they didn't make any more grade 5s. Why didn't make any more grade 5s for this? I like to think that because it's the one and only, so having a different one just kind of like Valkyrian himself actually doesn't have any other skill other than having checking the top card and seeing what grade it is, so it has that many drive checks. I think the fact that they didn't want to go overboard, they didn't want to have Valkyrian consistently be 5, like consistently have 5 drive checks, because you got so many grade 5s in the deck they can actually check in order to do that. And that kind of like breaks the thing as well, especially when you bring it into premium, and then there's stand triggers, and the stand trigger will stand Valkyrian because it's considered a rear. So it will stand Valkyrian, then it can attack again, and then, you know, it can drive check 5 again, which means that your opponent's a little bit more dead, especially if you manage to stack the deck. So with Genesis, that's actually quite possible to do so. So I think that's part of the reason why they didn't do something like that. So but even more so, like Kazu, I already talked about your point also. They really need to support Obis. I already talked about your point already. So essentially, like, you know, boosting wise, right, there seems to be a disconnect. There seems to be a huge disconnect between between what they want out of Vanguard, what the developers want out of Vanguard, and what is actually happening. There seems to be a huge disconnect over here, and they think that the cards they're producing on the common space and the rare space is like, oh, you know, this is actually pretty good enough, and, you know, in our control environments in there. But then in the wild west of the open market, of release rather, so, you know, all of a sudden things that they thought were happening isn't happening. Things that they tested and control were happening is not happening at all. So something is kind of like really not there in many ways. So yeah, like pretty much just goes off from there. So I feel that they need to give more non-overdress products. I can agree with this because while I still like it being 3 months apart. Every boost kind of like being 3 months apart. But I think that having a BT every 3 months is just a little bit I wouldn't say overbearing. Maybe it's closer to overbearing, but it's still in a just right kind of region. The most extreme right of that also. But I'm thinking that they probably should introduce more overdress products. Maybe they can actually like make a like the right decks actually have the thing. So they have the BTs in place, right? But then they can come up with like certain like in between they could have like more start decks and go for that. But they have the lyrical booster obviously, and then they have the collab stuff that's actually happening. For Aegis side, that's kind of coming later because they have to work out the legal and stuff from there. But they essentially speaking like Overdress right now, right, with each month actually having a release of something. It's actually okay, although I do find it to be a little bit more overbearing rather than it's underwhelming. So I can see why it's underwhelming because of the English release window. There's not a lot happening because where Japanese got all the stuff in between, right, was with the collab sets and everything, right. English side is not getting them because they have to work out the legal stuff also, and you know that's why they're not coming in there. So there's a wide space of people just not buying anything Vanguard related from there. So it kind of makes things a little bit easier. It kind of makes things a little bit easier for people's wallets, so that they can just look at every 3 months. They get their main release from there. But beyond that, right? What you call it? But like in between, right? There's kind of like nothing there, and I think that's kind of because of the English release more so than anything else from there. So yeah. Some other things. This one is actually for more on the ban list, which again on Friday I think Brendan will actually be talking more about this. So do feel free to kind of like go in there. Hi Leon.
Hey.
Hi. Give me a second.
Hi.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of like just talking about points from for Vanguard. So since we're kind of like doing a bit of a review and just kind of bring up player grievances that we have at the moment.
I thought that was kind of the subject of the day, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's today's subject also. It's today's subject, but more so along the lines of we're just getting to that point really. So we're just kind of getting deep into it. So just talking about other people's like grievances from there. So yeah, let me read some of yours as well from the comments also. What was the top by Bastion? What's the most broken card by Bastion? I think DS11 mentioned that every card at the moment right now isn't on. The order card, form up Chosen Knights maybe is kind of like the more broken card because it's actually pretty strong. What else also? And Aegis is saying, and Derek has something that I hate from V also, especially getting the specialty from a clan now right deck into somewhere else also. So yeah, again also it really is a problem of kind of like the boosting that I really brought up. So what else also? Leopold got left in the dust the moment Isabel and Hamsters got introduced also. Especially true, but they kind of can remedy it if they decide to do Leopold Reverse. And if Leopold Reverse actually has some interaction with original Leopold, and they do reprint Leopold in the set, I think that should be okay. So that kind of really solves certain things also. Zazan, you all know the thing about Zazan really. So yeah, actually let me get your opinion on this also.
Before that, Brain says that you changed your camera last night. Yeah, I was using my laptop camera last night because I was somewhere else. No, I was using my phone's front camera last night.
Yeah, he was on his phone because he's not
at
the time. So now he's on his
my proper webcam and everything, and my dog is on the side.
Yep, indeed. Right. For me, thank God, I play tier 4 Royals in premium also. Yeah, so for certain decks that might not be in effect because of you know like the ban list and everything, but you know it's a double way to see because there is the rule change as well, so we don't know what the rule change for premium might be. So there will be a core rule change also, which we'll have to see next week. In the WCC cross FRF standard tournament, 21 Bruce players, but none got into the top 8, so Bastion got first. So yeah, even more so like even with cards like this, right, it embellishes our point even further that Leonard and to a certain extent Derek is not that high end. I will argue against Derek actually being the being not there. But the point being is that like even with Leonard being as strong as this compared to everything else, it's still not topping. It's still not topping because it's still getting like beat by certain decks that seems to have a bit more consistency. And Bastion is one of those cards that is that because there just doesn't seem to be any creativity with his playstyle. It's just stack everything grade 3s, and then everything that they print out for Bastion is all new grade 3s, new grade 3 orders that does some cool stuff. So on and so forth from there. So like original, like it goes back to my comment about boosting and my pin on boosting also, is that there just doesn't seem to be any sort of like connection between what is expected by what is expected, what is seen in the control environment during Bushi's playtest versus what actually happens on release day. There seems to be a huge disconnect from there. So.
Okay, if you ask me, right, I don't think that it's because Bastion is consistent, but rather the question. My eye. Okay, rather the question is the problem lies with who is faster. It's not about the consistency, it's just who starts the fight faster than the other. In this case, right, in order for Bruce to even have an upper hand, right, he needs to go first. And we can never guarantee that. Because of the rock, paper, scissors and whatever, whatever way we determine our fight. And that's the opening. And against things like Bastion, no less, Bastion starts the fight as soon as he goes into grade 3. And the worst thing is that for Bastion, right, he is not affected by most of the situation that we are facing, is because Vanguard, true and true, since the beginning till now, no, especially somewhere in the middle, actually, somewhere in the middle, not the beginning. The beginning is actually okay. Somewhere in the middle, grade 1 and grade 2 does not start the fight. Unless you're like an Aqua Force deck or something specific, but generally speaking, nothing starts between your 1 and 2. Yep. Yeah. And because of that, right, and because of the way Overdress generally works, sorry, my mom.
Noise on that.
So like generally, so in Overdress, because we spend so much time saving hand, and sometimes our hand doesn't allow us to rush, even, then we had to suck it up, and then Bastion just comes in and look, grade 3, and then you just die. So and Bastion and Bruce is in no exception to that, even with all those powerful cards that he has, because to me I still feel that Bruce is actually quite balanced, if anything, because he is the deck that he needs to hold up for one turn to be effective, and he needs to be consistently persona riding to reach his maximum potential. But Bastion, on the other hand, does not care whether does he go into it or not. Going into it just makes your life even worse. Otherwise, he could just beat you without even going into persona riding. Because he could just hit you with one side for 5k. Next thing you know, he's going to hit you for 50 or 20 or worse, depending on the situation. And they have an over trigger that lets every unit they have to check triggers. And these are grade 3 centric decks, so everybody's gonna be like twin driving, one way or another. So, and you just okay.
Yeah. So that's and the biggest flaw of Bruce, as I've embellished before, is that he needs Final Rush to get things going. So even with all the skills that you see are like so high end, right? They still need Final Rush in order to go into the high end, even if that is the case. So a lot of decks, right, that are considered faster, like say Bastion, they will be faster against Bruce because of the fact that Bruce still needs to go into Final Rush in order to get all of his very high-end skills off. So that's the window of opportunity, right, that any player, like we take Bastion out, any player can actually take advantage against a Bruce player. But when the Bruce player gets going, right, that's where they really need to kind of watch out from there. And with Bastion being the way that he's built, right, as Leon mentioned, he starts at grade 3. He doesn't start a turn after, he doesn't start a persona, right? He starts at grade 3. Once you check a grade 3, which is going to be the case in Overdress, like, you know, like then he just gets things going from there. They can just kind of like push things down and rush off. Especially if your starting hand ends up being everything that you need on that turn 4 turn. Turn 4? Turn 4? Yeah, maybe turn 4, yeah. So, yeah, exactly. So yeah, so again, it paints more towards cards like Leonard and stuff for Bruce, right, as not being that too overpowered, but you still can't deny that everything else around all the other decks are actually not on par, and even between sets as well, it seems that the status quo has not changed. Certain decks, right, are still not as powerful as their counterpart because they're always going to be taking the back seat of sorts compared to the aces from there. And even between the aces themselves, right, they don't really fluctuate. It's still Bruce, it's still Bastion. There's still some Virina in there, but Virina is not as pertinent as the other two. So again, there's a disconnect somewhere. And,
exactly. So as for just to cut you off a little bit. As Brain was saying, like I wonder why in the anime Bastion keeps on bruising and it's purely plot. It's purely plot armor.
Plot.
And what's his name again?
Danji? Toya?
No, Danji. Toya sucks. His playstyle sucks.
His playstyle sucks also, yeah. I think a lot of Bastion players can kind of say that also. I play Bastion better than Toya.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though I have the Bastion deck in English over here, so I'm still gonna I'm still gonna be playing Hex or Op still. So but yeah.
Like that's the man that says what a straightforward place. Like, you should bought the deck.
Yeah, I bought the English deck, so.
It's like that's exactly what he says about System Megumi. Your playstyle is straightforward. Yeah, you don't have the right to talk about it.
Yeah, indeed. So, right. Bailiff says that I feel that they should be doing 2 skills on most overdressed cards. Some only play generic skills and then a right line limited continuous skill like extra shield or resource recovery. So, and it's highlighted over here by one of the new ones. One of the new ones that we got. So this standard has way less shield value and the trigger ruling really help to balance out the decks with the criticals, especially compared to V and Premium. These shields are too wonky, sadly, because of grade 1s being back to 5Ks and heals now 15K shields. So I think they try to remedy that by introducing the front triggers with 5K shields, but that caused the problem that led to the announcement yesterday, which is there's a limit to the number of offensive triggers that you can actually play. So
but at the same time, I don't feel like it's gonna do anything really, because the numbers are still increasing drastically, and these shield trigger numbers are not helping.
Yeah, so it leads more towards the right the fallacies of the design flaw kind of like pulling through, because every new set they come up with new cards, right? They talk about maintaining the power creep. It is maintained to a certain extent, but there's still those few cards that escape that ceiling, that break that ceiling a little bit. And with the 5K with the shields being the way that they are, and even with the one card that increases shield value, right, it's still very it's still a difficult guard from there, which means that games might not end satisfactory at a satisfactory point, so because of how low the shield value are.
And not to mention, there's also another problem that currently we are facing, is that they are trying to introduce new order cards into the game, but they are nothing more but just increasing shield numbers for every other nation except Stoichia, because Stoichia plays the order cards as kind of like their main game. Okay, right now my biggest problem with Overdress as a whole is that they are making very weird design choices. Aside the power creeping, it's just like they're so specific with what they are boosting. I'm not even talking I'm not talking about the archetypes, because that's an established problem. It's everybody knows this. Now here's the kicker. I felt that it's wrong. But my expectation of Overdress at the start wasn't like this. Because what I expected was that Overdress was a mechanic that every nation is gonna get. And the Overdress units aren't gonna be something that is restricted to whatever their double R's or their triple R is.
Yep.
It's gonna have the common variation of a Overdress. Or you are only gonna be restricted by the you can only Overdress on a grade 0 unit or something. So there's a bit of flexibility. I mean, there's a reason why you change it to nations, right?
Yep. There's a reason why we change it to nations also. Yeah, correct.
But now the only Overdress units you're ever gonna see are the rares, are like Arcs.
Yep.
Elga, Valiante, and this new guy. They are all triple R's and double R's, and they are all Ace units, and that means anybody who receives their common cards have no use.
Exactly.
They have no use, and they are purely restricted by Trickster, And if you have no Trickstar, you miss the TD somehow, you're not gonna be playing Varina at all. Why?
Yeah, so I add on to that, right, with my experiences with Bruce. Because with Bruce, right, you have you already have the cards from the start itself. DPO1, you've got Eden. Great, very good card. Ladder came out. Ooh, it's quite powerful actually, and a lot of combination can actually pull off there. It's actually gonna be fun. And then you introduce Derek. All of a sudden, right, I'm now trying to juggle between having Eden, Jared. I forgot about Jared as well. Having Eden, Jared, and then now with Leonard, and these three seem to be fitting nicely. And then you're asking me to fit in Derek as well, and Derek plays much more differently compared to everything else. It allows me to retire based on every 4 souls in my deck. Bruce deck has never dealt with 4 soul, have never dealt with having a stack of soul before. Like they have just nice 5, so maybe up to 8, but not 12. Which the order card, there's an order card that says that if you have 12 cards, they can activate this skill. Like the design flaw, right, is that there's a huge disconnect between 3 and 4, and while I get that each individual set should be self-contained, which means that if a new player gets a Bruce deck and then he only buys DPTO 3, he can play with those sets no problem. But for veteran players like us, like your example with Virina, Expector, Urger, and Arx as well, like where am I gonna find the space for all of these? Something's gonna get cut, and chances are it probably be the new stuff, because what we got from DPTO 1, DPTO 2 is good enough already. Like I can get all the shit I need done. I don't need these new cards, and it leads to people just kind of like deciding maybe I shouldn't be buying this set because I don't technically need anything from it. You know what I mean?
And that's also one of the many problems. Next problem I had is set orders. Set orders are only restricted purely to only Brand Gate.
Yep.
Only Brand Gate has set orders. Can you imagine introducing Few Magic and only one archetype plays Few Magic?
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
So again, like the generic it's pointed out by different fight himself. The generic space, right, isn't actually explored very well. Like
generic, right?
You could say so, but the current cards that we have in the common space, in the rare space, are not pertinent enough, right, that people would consider playing them. They're basically just, useless cards. As you always say, those cards are usually useless because they don't end up factoring into the deck. And even if we play test and we figure that something's missing, we find it within the rares and highs. We don't find it in the commons. And the idea of the commons is supposed to, and if they want to take advantage of the generic space, right, they gotta make the commons into something that's specifically like considerable, and not just throwaway cards because they just need to fill up the packs.
Yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing. And again, back to the order cards, it's once again got put in a ditch where majority of them doesn't really serve a purpose. And when they do have a purpose, they are so specific to certain things. It's like it doesn't say this card is for Eugene only. But then the skill is like clearly for Eugene only.
Yeah.
But now they rub it in your face and straight up just tell you this is for Eugene only.
Yeah. So I get it for triple R's, but I don't get it for rares. I don't get it for rares because I think rares should not have the limiter of if your thing is there. Like you don't have to give them the great skill, but give them something specific enough that any of the 3 builds can consider, and it's a rare card, so people will consider rares. But the common cards, especially like as you said, if it's stuck only in Brand Gate right now, right? Like then use the common space to kind of open it up to all nations. Like have like the Dragon Empire nation just kind of like have like a one set order that people can consider playing because it will have some cool stuff in there, and not just a blitz order or a normal order. Like they're doing fine with normal orders, but the set order specifically is, if it's tied to just Brand Gate, right, then that means everything in Brand Gate is just gonna be based on set orders. They're gonna run out of ideas eventually.
Yeah, because they are so, which again in Brand Canada just ran itself back into the whole problem that we open up the border, but you're still Asian.
Yeah, you're still filtered. You're still segregated based on what deck you go with. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. Yeah, so
yeah, and even I just saw one of their more generic cards this recently for DBO3 for the common.
Yep.
Was that this Desert Gunner, when your Vanguard attack hits, retire this card. draw a card, counter charge 1.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like a good card on paper, but this is also clearly with absolutely no consideration of all 3 of the archetypes.
Yeah.
Because all 3 of the archetypes has no space for this card.
All 3 archetypes said no, and the skill is not significant enough that people will consider.
Yeah, because
we'll consider them because the skill is not pertinent enough that they go, maybe if I work this in, or if I play the thing, it's like something seems to be missing. Ooh, maybe if I slot this in. Nobody has ever said that about common cards. Nobody has ever said that about common cards. They're either in there in the first place, or they're left out of the deck. There's never a situation where people look at common card and go, maybe if I put that card in, maybe that might fix something that I'm missing from the deck. Nobody has that thought process, and I think that's a huge crying shame.
Which is very unfortunate. They say there's a set order card for Keta in this upcoming set 3.
Yeah, since we got a comment here from Edric, he's using our Discord, so
Protector's Pride.
Yeah, so no, we'll start with the top one that he mentioned first. So the top 6 is what I have seen, is what we have a big issue with ever since learning about them, especially mostly Nue and Diamond specifically. So those 2, along with the rest of the top 6, have little to no counters. With the release of Hill Guardians, early damage denial becomes non-existent in V and Premium. Nerfing the top 6 mainly could have helped Premium be a bit more approachable format where new players won't be getting experience getting 0 to 6 damage in 1 turn the moment their opponent rises to their grade 3 if they are the top 6 or so. Yeah, you kind of mentioned something close to this, right? But at the same time also it embellishes on the point that we made earlier about how inaccessible V Premium and Premium is to Overdress players.
Yep, because there is no base cards to play with. And then because they don't reprint important things, actually important things, and when they do a revival set, not all of them gets a G Guardian.
No.
And some of these G Guardians are already proven not effective as it is, or they are too good or something. It doesn't solve the problem. Again, it creates more problem than there is because still people cannot play the game because there is no base cards. And yes, there is a Blitz order in Dragon Empire that basically you 3 or more cards, you choose your unit plus 15k at it. But that's not what I'm talking about.
That's a Blitz order card, so.
Those are Blitz order, and that's a generic 15k power guardian.
It's a guardian. It's a guardian.
It's what I was just talking about, is that most of these order cards turns out to be only very defensive use. Whereas actually offensively used are funny. Okay, at least Keta has getting its own set order, but this set order is literally just tells you it's a Bastion card. He just tells you it's a Bastion card.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a Keta card, it's just a Bastion card. I mean, yes, Hexer can use, but
yeah, exactly. So I think what you call it? I think Edric is actually pointing out to Wish to Tomorrow, the set order from DBTO3. Color blast 1, soul blast 1, reveal a critical trigger or front trigger from your head. If your opponent is a grade 3 or greater Vanguard, you draw a card and put the reveal card for this cost at the top of your deck. Now, this is actually a rare card, a rare order card, normal order, that you can play with Bastion, and it might end up being problematic because Bastion. But this is what I mean by there's a disconnect over here, because people think, probably the developers are thinking, this is a card that's actually Hexer Op players will actually use a lot more. You know, Bastion Harry's got a lot of stuff already, like maybe they won't be able to find space for this. They don't consider the fact that players will use this card in Bastion, and so they'll get all of this. They get all of this plus on there. So this skill is actually a little bit too. When we talk about generic space, right? This skill is actually considered a bit too powerful, and is sort of a card that's people will kind of stuff in because of how high value a card like this is for Bastion. So.
Yeah.
Increased deck size will not help. Increased deck size will not really help.
It's just gonna make the game worse.
It's gonna make the game a lot worse, honestly speaking. And you know, it eliminates the risk of decking out, which is where Bastion and to a certain extent certain decks like Pale Moon and Dark Vegas would relish in. it will benefit them the most, because if they have more cards in deck, that means they have less risk of decking out, and the point of them using up so much of their deck to soul charge, soul blast, and do all the other things, right? It makes it so that it's a bit more, how do I say it? It's a bit more easier for them, right, to actually take those high risks without, you know, without having to worry about them losing to deck out. So increasing the deck size really wouldn't fix much also. Set order score Protector's Pride also. I didn't see it also. Or maybe it's below, like Protector's Pride. Yeah, but that's one good example of like Wish to Tomorrow being a thing. Protector Pride. There we go. This one also. Play this by discarding a card from your hand. All of your grade 3s, all of your grade 3 regards get boost. And this is actually a rare. So this is a order card for Bastion. All of your grade 3s get boost, and this is nothing this is not anything we've seen before, actually.
Yeah. Again, it's a Bastion card.
Maybe it's our maybe it's our long experience that we see this and go like, oh, Bastion is really doing shenanigans like this, so you know it's not really that pertinent. It's not really like that big of a deal. But
and it's a set 3 grade order, right?
Set 3 grade order.
Okay, tell you what, this thing, I think there's a card that actually makes all your grade 3 does boost.
Yes, Darkstrain Dragon. So.
Darkstrain Dragon, right? I guess this is kind of the makeup for people who didn't have Darkstrain Dragon.
Yeah, it kind of makes up for people that doesn't have Darkstrain Dragon, and or if they do not have the Soul Blast cost anymore to pay for Darkstrain Dragon. Like they can play once per turn, so but you know, with the amount of soul that's being used up for other skills in Bastion, like, you know, like they produce a card from there just to kind of alleviate people's you know, just to alleviate people's you know, like nerfism. So like you can outlast a Bastion card because of it, but the Bastion is not supposed to be outlasted. It's supposed to have its consistent power from grade 3 all the way there. Not high powered, but there. But players have made it high powered, so but yeah. They say it's a Bastion card, so but Hexor and PPD can use the grade 3 engine, so just not as great as Bastion. So that's why we're using Bastion as the identifier here, more so than we talk about Hexor and PPD. Because Hexor and PPD, right, does not play towards the grade 3 deck, which Bastion does. So Bastion is better to talk about in this example, more or less. Also, look at Monastery. You gotta tell me the cards, Andrew, and you can just talk here. Like you don't have to point out here. So, like, yeah. So, but hang on, let me just dip back into the chat because I think I see 1 or 2 people. 20k fronts is a good way for people to use fronts, as fronts is not commonly used by people also. True on that 20k front also, but honestly speaking, right, the draw triggers actually still being 5k, and the heal triggers actually losing that out. I kind of feel that front should have been a heal. Like they don't want to give heal triggers any skills, obviously, so but if those front triggers were actually heal triggers, right, I think they wouldn't have gone into the fix that they need to do with restricting triggers to 8.
You know, the front triggers, right? What I feel about the front trigger is it felt like you're forced to play it because of the 20k shield, if anything. Because 1, we don't have extra crits. 2, draws are not as helpful as we hope to be. Because some decks can draw like crazy, and some decks doesn't. And some decks are already caught between not enough draw and not enough power. Eugene, obviously. When I was playing Eugene, I was caught between this problem of I need crits, but I also need draw. But I also need defenses because I have none of that. I have no firepower because I had to waste 1 card to tap to use a skill. And then I had to kill my unit some more so that I can kill your unit. And then I got to top deck something that I have absolutely no clue for.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's just like, I need that help quick.
Yeah. And you know, we talk you know, we talk about Bastion in the last few sentences already. So honestly speaking, right, when I talk about Bastion, right, I'm bored out of my mind when I talk about Bastion because of how uninspired his build is also. And it can tie to how originally Bastion is originally presented. in the way that he plays this way, then if you try to play any other way with introducing grade 2s, your deck becomes less efficient from there. So that is the fault. That is the original fault of the design of Bastion in that regard. So, but again, like the disconnect between what players would try to do, well, what players would do after release versus what is in their control environment doesn't seem to line up at all. So because I'm thinking that they probably will try and manipulate the top deck, so they will introduce grade 3s, grade 2s. It's like, it seems to me like they don't think about how the game will break. Maybe they did think about it, but more so towards the fact that we gotta make sure that the Overdress is actually fine as it is. So, but they kind of like slipped their mind as they got into O2, O3, so on and so forth from there. And like DBT04 is not gonna be looking bright because things are set in stone. But I don't know if waiting until March 2022 for DBT05 might actually be worth it. So some people might already be disillusioned with things. So if they don't do anything in DBT04.
Yep, and I feel that right now them introducing the set order is just kind of late. If you ask me, I felt that these are things that should have been like at the start.
At the get-go, so like establish that anything and everything can be there. They did it, but not enough that. No, they did it with BTO1, but they didn't continue it with BTO2, and things ended up being more filtered.
You know what? Filter, so. I actually just realized something when I think about it. Suddenly, I felt that the right deck has become it's starting to feel more and more of a mistake. You know why? It's because they had the right deck happening. So things are restricted to whatever you're playing in your right deck.
Yeah.
Okay. And because we have that, right, that means you cannot create generic grade 3s anymore. Or grade 3s that is feasible for different situation. So end up they kind of shoot themselves in the foot and forced to make things restrictively only to the Ace Vanguard that will be playing in your right deck.
Yep. Exactly.
Which is kind of silly because they like imagine removing borders to put another model, which is kind of like the repeating question here. So I thought that if let's say at the start, right, if they didn't have the right deck, they just introduced the mechanics, they actually would give themselves more flexibility for cards to be generic all over again. Just like what they did with the first BTO1 and BTO2. Because they were specifically generic, although you have Ember Dragon, all the kind of stuff that came along, but they weren't exactly an archetype that were forced within their little circles. Because I was playing a Ember Dragon DN deck. And that worked out.
That worked out well. So like you can still use the aces from the latest boost and still some cards from the older ones and just make things as strong and viable as they are. Or even like the new cards are supposed to make the decks even more powerful or play in a way that is considered to be on par with everything else that's in the set. But again, boosting wise, right, I think creativity has kind of like been strained a bit, and we're not seeing these we're not actually seeing this evenness played out. So because people are still gravitating towards certain decks or so, and even if they introduce right lines, this is part of the reason why I'm against new right lines being introduced, because of the fact that if they introduce a new right line, right, it's kind of like a band-aid solution to try and change the players, like players' participation in terms of what they play in tournaments, so on and such. And like people will play this, but then they still revert back to playing the tried and true, because as long as the boosting and the status quo doesn't change, especially especially in DBT04, right, it's very hard to really see this 10-year plan that Vanguard has for Overdress. And even if Kidani is like going to spend half his time just trying just to help out with the Vanguard side from there, right, I don't know. I'm afraid that it might end up being a bit too late. So, but
okay. Katan asked, do you think Trigger's power was 5k normally? Would they have been more reasonable? Actually, yes.
Yes, but only if the power doesn't creep.
Doesn't go any higher. Because actually, if right now if they lower the shield power, then they release the trigger power, it makes sense. But right now is that the trigger power didn't change, and then they lower the shield power, and then they have 100 million
Then they have 100 million, yeah.
And then there's 100 million. that
Right,
made no sense.
Yeah, make more trial decks in V series. It's really unfair. They should do this when Overdress starts also. And I think it's way too late for them to actually do trial decks also. I can start to formulate maybe like year-long boosts that they actually have like a small little booster pack that has all the triggers and such for V series, but it will not be released all at once because I think that's way too difficult for them. Secondly, right, I think that it's still way too late to actually introduce some of the things. So they need to figure out a solution beyond re-releasing, cards in the manner that I suggested. So like they gotta find a way to include these things so that it makes it more accessible for new players to get into this format. Because right now, getting into V Premium and getting into Premium, right, is only rewarding if you've been there before. Like even for V players as well, if they got in V, right, they never actually went into Premium format, right, it's more difficult for them to actually get in there because of availability and such. So especially as I've heard from Leon talk about, so there hasn't been anything significant for Premium collection.
No. As a matter of fact, nobody cared for majority of the stuff in there. Most people just got whatever was nostalgic.
Correct, also. So it makes me kind of worry about the rule change that they are going to be introducing next week Thursday. Also.
That's not the key issue about having clan selection, right? Is that who are you really printing it for? You are printing it to support V,
but you're supporting pre-existing players.
Correct. And there are already a lot of players who dropped off because of that. And why would new players want to get things they cannot play or couldn't play in this case? Other than the card looks cool.
Yep.
Because like Rin just pointed out, it's hard for me to go back to Premium or V because I don't have staple cards or important cards because there's not even base cards. And again, they're base cards, and a lot of these base cards are created specifically to do the one job. And
exactly,
it's weird.
Yeah, exactly. So like, if you ask me about a ban list or restriction list for there, right, I think that something else needs to do more. Like we got what we needed to get out. Not saying needed to get but we got something significant. Hang on, let me bring out the window. We got something significant with Overdress having 8 triggers of critical draws and fronts. But I think this is a right first step, but they need to make more steps after this. So we need to see if boosting wise for Vanguard actually is actually conforms to address player feedback and so on and so forth. They're already talking to us. We know that much. So now it's more of the sense that there needs to continue to be that open channel and blow it even wider as well, because we need to know why certain things are actually being released. Why did you make this? Why did you make this design? Why is this card actually not as significant as some of the others? Like if you have this open forum, if you really have this open forum, you continue this open forum from there, right? Maybe you won't have the fiasco which is the fire on Twitter for Vanguard side, in a way, so.
And I felt, and to me, right, this entire situation is it's too late.
It's completely avoidable. Yeah, it's completely avoidable.
Yeah,
but
like to me, right, what I felt about this entire situation was that the mistake has been going on for too long. And then when they try to fix it, it's too late. If you ask me.
I'm worried that it's too late. I'm worried that we're past the point of it being too late.
Yeah, because one of the things that I noticed, although as much as I hate to compare it, is that I noticed there's one thing that Konami likes to do when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that they're consistently releasing things that helps the previous sets, and then they have things that moves forward.
Correct.
But of course, granted that their stuff is generic enough to play across the board.
Yeah.
Of course, there are things that's still specifics, but of course, at the same time, they are still flexible enough for you to play. You don't have to use a Stardust specific card or a Dark Magician specific card to still make the deck work, because the general mechanic of the game is generic. It's just, of course, efficiency is deterred depending on what you use, of course. Yeah. But for Vanguard's case, is that none of it is. Correct. Anything from the initial past mistake was that every set outpowered the next. becomes anything that is in forward is better, and then now that things already reached its peak power in V, it suddenly pulled back because of D, and now there is no middle ground.
Correct.
Suddenly there's no middle ground.
Correct. There's almost studios also that emphasizes more on the point of how inaccessible V currently is also for players that actually want to get into it, because they don't have the first 3 Drew Knights that came out that you managed to get. And you know, he has no way of getting them, not unless he wants to play a super amount, because now that we know that Drew Knights are coming, so prices for people who are selling the Drew Knight stuff are actually going to be higher. They actually will be able to sell it higher. So control of the secondary market remains with them, and with them not being new reprints for these cards. So it continues to make all the other formats even more inaccessible. Not just to Overdress players, but also to returning players also.
You know, I just realized something.
What?
I think Bushido just foretold their own story in the first season of Vanguard. I think we got our answers. Why there was only one Blaster Blade? Because there was never a reprint, and then they proceed to print a bunch of things that's nothing to do with it. There has a lot of it boosted Blaster Blade, but they stopped printing Blaster Blade.
Brain, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. It's not too late to apologize. I'm glad that they made the apologies, but this is but as I mentioned before, it seems like we're shooting on the game and just really highlighting the bad points. But this is a review of Vanguard 6 months after Overdress, and it took us like about an hour, almost an hour and a half to really kind of get to the point, to get to that point also. But really, these are things, right, that cannot be ignored, and things that we want Bushido to address and to start taking notice of also, because all of these matters, right? All of this matters in the long run to the longevity of Overdress. They made it 10 years, but part of it is by sheer luck, in a way. But
I mean, the game is 80% luck as it is.
Yeah, but take a look. But I want you guys, right, to just take a look at where you are right now. I want you guys to take a look at where you are right now. You're on a YouTube channel that's talking about Vanguard passionately. You have many other people on Twitter, on socials, that's talking about Vanguard passionately. You continue to see product releases. You continue to have all these discussions. People just talking about all these things also. There's a reason why Overdress drew in a number of people, and the marketing helped with that. They really reached out to people that are not known as Vanguard players to try and get word out. And there's a lot more players in Vanguard right now than ever before. They've done something. They've done something well with Overdress. And that cannot be ignored. No matter how the state of the game that we feel it may need to be and needs to take, we cannot ignore all the things that Overdress has done thus far. And in proxy also V Premium as well. Because if they care for V Premium, right? If they do continue to care for V Premium with the VCAN collection, actually VCAN collection, right? A lot of people were very hyped that the VCAN collection was coming out, especially when they're releasing all the beloved units, the Legion units, basically.
Yeah.
Thing Saver, all on. So it created a lot of buzz, and people were super excited. They really know how to, outside of execution, of course. So they really know how to really cater to all players of Vanguard, and they're listening. The V Series cards, right? A lot of people would say that it's not a worthwhile buy, because the shit that I'm doing with Diamond Arts, the shit that I'm doing with the top 6 decks, so it's enough for me. I don't need to buy this new set. But a lot of people who have fond memories of this, right, will continue to buy this new set because and it lives up to what it is. So it doesn't have to be as powerful if they are a competitive player, but if you're a casual player, if you're playing the game for fun, if you enjoy the game of Vanguard, what they've really done right is really brought back the enjoyment of Vanguard. And that's something that cannot be ignored. That's a good point that we can put onto Vanguard right now in this state as it's in.
And ultimately, I just feel that the more they are pushing forward with the way that they're doing, yes, hype is one thing, but getting players back is another thing, because
keeping players also, yeah.
Keeping players is another issue altogether. Creating hype is the easiest thing to do. Creating is the easiest thing to do, but when they are caught in a position where it serves no purpose to the players, right, other than people who are nostalgic.
Correct.
And most of the hype we see is actually from players that have been in the game for a long time.
Correct.
Actually, if you think about it.
Surprisingly, a lot of the hype that we see, a lot of positive feedback towards Vanguard and Overdress has been from players who have been jaded for the past how many so years within the 10-year history of it also. Then when
Uh,
Overdress
and-
was announced, and
And the other reason why people were so hyped about V-Clan selection was also because a lot of this unit that we're waiting for has been finally released.
mm-hmm.
Like, we didn't get to see a lot of the favorites like Raging Form, and suddenly we have Think Saver, and then
reverse
of
units
course-
also as well. So we thought that those would have died out because they're going to focus on Overdress. So V Premium is going to take a back seat for a significant amount of time while they continue to establish Overdress. In fact, when they released the V series, right, like the G era kind of like put on the back burner. There wasn't anything specific for it, and it was only like a significant 6 months plus that we got something for Premium.
I think and you know what I feel about it's not even about taking the backseat actually. It's just trying to find ways to keep that format alive. If you think about it carefully, because reverse units has not been talked about for years. It's only people who remembered or been playing Zero who knows these cards. Anybody outside of that, it still doesn't drive the premium, because again, it became cards that you cannot use if you are getting into the format, or the cards don't live up to expectations other than it looks. And reverse units, most people today will be like, what's that? And as a matter of fact, most reverse units didn't even leave a really good impression because of how bad they were initially, and now it's just kind of like a revamp to kind of like
but
revisit the skill, I guess.
But they're addressing those said issues also, and that's why we end up, instead of getting Maiden of with Venus Trap reverse, we're getting Cecilia reverse, we're getting Hibiko reverse. And the fact that they are actually looking back at all the stuff that's been that seems to have fallen through in that time period also. They're kind of like bringing it into the V series and just making it like significant enough. Now no clan has a reverse unit. Every single clan is going to get a reverse unit some way somehow as well.
Yeah, but again, it's just to keep the thing alive. If anything, it's less about actually doing something that will fix the game. It's just trying to keep the sales going. That's kind of how I see it, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, it does keep sales going also, but that's their best trait, isn't it? Marketing.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that definitely has been keeping it alive is always been their marketing. Their marketing is stronger than any other card games I've ever seen.
Correct. Also.
They're willing to throw out the cash, hire big names.
Correct. So if they can actually take all of the bad points that we talked about throughout this entire discussion stream and convert them into pluses from there, like their marketing, like if they take these steps and try to make Vanguard a better game for in its entirety, right, and just address some of the issues that players are saying, not just us, but players are in general are saying, which is why I asked you guys to tell me about your play grievances. Like if they start to address this, like if they start to address some of these things, right, we will be looking forward to a much more brighter future for Vanguard also. And that's pretty much what we want, right? We want Vanguard to continue. And so far throughout what I've seen from here, I can confidently say, right, that I can actually can give, right, Vanguard in its current state right now a grade C, like right in the middle. There's a lot of things about the game, right, that needs to be addressed, but we can see them taking steps of it, and so that kind of like really improves the grade just a little bit further. So
hopefully so. Like, I do. The only few things are, I guess, as much as at least not as positive as Cap is in this regard. But I will admit that I have things I am looking forward to, but I've been disappointed twice in a row.
Rises.
I don't know. I Rises is one thing. Okay, no, that's you.
That's me.
Yeah.
That's me. But
Yeah, but I've been disappointed twice by the clan selection, and then twice because both Kagero and Narukami essentially got the short end of the stick. Okay, and now I'm about to see that again.
You might see that again.
So am I gonna? But if they could, for for any chance or anything to gain back my little bit tiny of whatever trust that I'm left with, you give me Descendant Reverse and a proper rebirth. Please.
Like there's still time to address the whole boosting thing. So like make everything in there significant enough. Everything doesn't have to be overpowered. Everything just needs to match up. And make it and play test it enough, right, so that you can actually see significant 5-5s, more 5-5s than 7-3s, but no like 10 zeros basically. If you want to know what I'm referring to, right, there's a thing in fighting games, right, called the win ratio, and that's basically the win ratio between like two different players or two different characters in there. So 5-5s, 7-3s, then the 10-0 is the worst one because this character is always going to overpower this one.
But unfortunately, I am only going to say that in that case, right, you can more or less forget it, because the problem is that in V, right, everything is already way too broken.
Yeah.
If you're a OV player, chances are, right, you already have things that's already better than your free premium.
In a way, lah. So like that is the mistakes of the past. That's the mistakes of the past that is difficult to erase as well. But
yeah, and because it's difficult to erase, right, new players with the new cards will not be able to come in to do something about that. It's because they cannot play the game.
Yeah, but if they do do the boosting right, we might actually see something like that. So
we might
see something right that can match up. We might see something that can match up. So there's still time because the VCAT collection is only coming out in January. That's still a significant 3 months away. And cards are still in design,
very fast.
Yeah, so it can go fast, but that's a lot of time that they have to play with. And if they don't waste any single second of it, and making sure that things are in the state that they want to be, and predictably will be in the way that they want to be, they can pull this off.
Actually, there's one thing they can fix this problem. There is one way they can fix this problem. They actually need to combine D and V together. It's the only way.
So eliminate the V series?
No, more like print a card, print a set of triggers, nation-based triggers.
Oh, nation-based triggers, create elemental triggers.
Yeah, or at least nation-based. Okay, but they will be scaled to the power in V. So at least people who are going into V Premium have access to these basic triggers to play. Because there is most of if I recall, only some cards has effects or triggers. But what they really need right now is at least base triggers. Because the D triggers does not match up in power, so nobody wants to use them in premium, right?
So actually no, that's actually a good point. So if they make create elemental triggers, right, with an imprinted skill saying that it's overdress card, but the imprinted skill saying this card can also be played in D or V format also. Like
that's right, like Edric says now. Edric says now the D/V format.
Correct. So
cards that can be hybrid into both formats because of what it is.
Correct. Yeah, so you have to wait a while because we are on a current topic right now. So I see your questions, I want to get to them also, but do be patient.
We've been dragging on quite a bit, so actually please proceed.
Yeah, so alright. Brain wants to ask what reverse unit you want for Create Elemental if there's one. Create Elementals will not have a reverse unit. It makes no sense. In fact, right, reverse units, Create Elementals came after reverse was a thing. So you're not gonna see a Create Elemental reverse. It makes no sense. Besides, do you really want to see Zazan reverse? Do you really want to see Zazan reverse? I don't think so. I don't think you want to. I don't think you want to see Cyclone reverse as well. So there is 100% no chance in hell that there's going to be an elemental reverse. And even if we want to predict one, it is, right, just the two names that I posted to you, nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. So so AG says that what I'm worried about is no mention of V premium restrictions, so only premium does. So maybe they might address it next week, but we will have to see where they goes from there. So V Premium could use some restrictions on their own top 5. So if they decide to do it, so then they can probably proceed to do so, because I think that as long as they have the evidence and players are talking about it enough, Bushiroad might actually enact something much sooner rather than later. So we can trust that they're actually looking into things also. So yeah, it's a wait and see. And then if something happens, and then once we finally waited and then we see what's happening, then we can alert our voices to them and tell them this is a good move or this is a bad move. Like, we still have to trust into them, but at least we know that our voice matters. At least we know that our voice matters from there. So yeah, just before when V was the main format, nostalgia, every set is not okay. So then now we got 2 per year. It's hype. So I mean, yeah, again, marketing from there. So that's just pretty much the thing from there. So Zazan reverse, no. Lol, Valkyrian reverse, let's go. Nobody wants that. So we already got Himiko reverse already. So but yeah, Elementals reverse shouldn't exist. Yeah, they shouldn't exist. So we get hired by Bushiroad. So I doubt it. So I doubt it. Honestly speaking, we are more effective out here than we are ever inside the company. Our voices are heard just as loudly here as it is, as it would be if we were, affiliated with them or partner with them. So like, we can tell them these things, they can watch our stuff and highlight these things, but at the end of the day, the most power that we can effect, the most that we can affect with our power is outside of the company. And yeah, so that's why we're having streams like this also, just to really have this discussion and really just talk about all things Vanguard. So good and bad.
Zazan reverse will be Nas.
Will be Nas. So I probably should clip the do you really want a Zazan reverse and just put it on Twitch. Just put it on Twitter, so see how many people just want to cry about it. Just to see Twitter cry.
Zazan is the reverse.
Zazan is the reverse.
Yeah, I think there's no V premium restriction list for now. There's only
correct. So
actually, I think I know why there is no V premium restriction. Because there's nothing to restrict.
Their current outside of what's already been done, but yeah, I mean, in terms of a new restriction list, I think we'll have to wait until closer to the V-Kind collection in order to see any restrictions also.
You want to know why? I feel that that is also the case, is because nobody's playing the V-Kind selection stuff.
In a way.
Because everything else is more powerful than they are, in so many ways.
More or less also, but if the new V-Kind collection, right, does things right, then we can see a resurgence in V. More so than what we've seen right now. Essentially. So
I mean, if I could kill you in 3 turns with Overlord, why would I want to play Steel Dragons, right?
Yeah, in some cases that is the truth also. But everything that's coming in the new set needs to be considerable. And so yeah, people say restriction Bermuda stuff only. Well, because Bermuda has the one that's been topping tournaments and such also. So that's why I think a lot of people are kind of specifically targeting Bermuda because of it. I can agree to it because I've seen the plays from Bermuda Triangle. It's not pretty, but it's one of the few decks in V, right, that I'd say may have Bushiroad's attention, especially.
You know why Bermuda Triangle stuff are called Bermuda? It's because one turn your life gone. You don't even know where it went.
Nice one. Also. It's their main money maker also, but their main money maker shouldn't be the best deck in the world.
No, that's how they get money, bro.
No, that's how they get money, but that doesn't mean that it should be the best deck in the world.
It has to be so that they can make more money.
Yeah, it has to be that they can make more money, but it shouldn't be the case, is what I'm saying.
So are you saying that yes, you are the big gun buyer, not the big gun?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You know?
Are we having a Tony and Roddy thing going on right now?
Exactly. Exactly in that way. But yeah. That kind of ends our discussion right now. So yeah, pretty much thank you guys so much for being part of this discussion stream. So a lot has been said about the state of Vanguard as it is right now, and I think we pretty much like add a lot of what should be said and what should be heard out out from there. So, and while it may seem like it's more of a shoot session, it's more to highlight, to put into people's minds just what needs to be addressed, what needs to be a thing going forward for Vanguard, especially since that the Twitter fire happened as it is, and what they can do even more after this first step in order to continue making Vanguard into the game that you want it to be. And at the same time, also we look back at the past 6 months and just think how things have gone thus far for Vanguard, and a lot of good has come out of it. But if they want to continue having the good, right, addressing the bads is like the first point at it.
Version on the band list.
This is
It is a prediction list.
Yeah, no, yeah, it says predictions as well. I see Starry
Hey.
Pop Dragon only restricted to 1 copy. Yeah. That makes Law Pigeon Pop actually fucking useless. It makes the Harry deck kind of shut down a little bit. So.
You know, right? The premium the cross is actually not as bad.
No, it's not as bad. So.
Even though the standard the cross is just decayed. If anything, it's just decayed.
Yeah.
But he is a bigger kicker than anything else.
Yeah, the bigger kicker is actually the end. So, but the point that you made here, Overlord the end V version to the over trigger. So like, if you don't allow the over trigger in the premium format, right, then maybe this kind of thing. This actually might be a thing. So I hate to think that it seems to be more likely that over trigger might actually be restricted out of premium.
Because people can abuse the living daylight, I think. Then we have Ultima.
Yeah, like you have multiple examples. Ultima, you have Overlord the end V edition with the over trigger, so on and so forth. So I kind of had that sneaking suspicion that in premium, right, over triggers might actually not be allowed.
Actually, it makes sense for that to happen. But at the same time, it will also become redundant. Then that is like shooting yourself in the foot again.
Yeah, so but if they need to shoot themselves in the foot so that they can free themselves from the nail that they're stuck on.
Actually, to be fair, right, I don't see a reason for them to ban over triggers. For premium, because not every deck functions properly with the over trigger.
Yep.
Unfortunately, just because you have 100 million power doesn't mean anyone gives a shit.
Right.
Yeah, because there's things like Denial Griffin. Boom.
Anybody want to get any last things in before we end the stream? Because we've been on for almost 2 hours, so I kind of think it's a good time to really just end the stream right now. Bit my tongue again. I gotta also my tongue, so that's why.
Eric's like, my eye.
Because you
It's
went
not gonna
my
go in
eye.
there, so.
Yeah,
That's not gonna go in there. So.
My eye. So OTs in premium can't guarantee a win. So best quote. I like
Yep.
the quote. Yeah.
It can't.
You
It
can't.
only happens in standard. Because standard, I do hate it when in standard I just got OT to them. I was winning and then overtrip. But then in premiums, I don't I don't care. Oh, 100 million. It would be a shame if I just deal damage to you directly.
We do better work, as mentioned, Ben, so we do our work better outside of Bushiru than we would inside. So inside, we might not be able to affect the change or say the things that we want to say at this point in time. Matt, the internet is proof of it. So. But yeah, so clip Leon. So yeah, you guys can clip on YouTube. So you guys can actually clip on YouTube. So. But yeah, so I think that's all that we're gonna be talking about right now. So once again, thank you everybody that has joined us for the discussion stream. Yeah, so we will be what we call it? Yeah, so we will be ending the stream right now. So do be sure to, if you want to talk more about this, so like we're available on our socials on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We also have our Discord as well, where I've polled you guys over on these things as well. If you want to talk more about the ban list and restrictions predictions as well, Brendan will be having a stream on Friday, and he actually will be delving into, I believe he's going to be delving into discussions about the restriction list, and you can bring it over to him as well. So on Friday, live, Brendan will be doing a stream, so you can join him over there in order to talk more about the restriction list. If you want to talk more about us, if you want to talk more to us about what we discussed here today or anything about Vanguard related, our socials and our Discord server is the best way to get in touch with us. So do be sure to join those over there. Subscribe to us here over on the YouTube channel as well, and also follow us over on Twitch. We'll be doing the Tuesdays Vanguard live stream, Vanguard Zero Sundays, so on and so forth. I find out that Twitch actually has a schedule function right now, so I've actually scheduled something. So those will be the days that you can see me: Tuesdays, Sundays, And then you also will see me on Saturdays as well as on Thursdays as well. So I'll keep those dates. I'll try to fulfill to those dates as much as possible, and you guys can find me over there on Twitch from there. What else? If you want to support us, so you can join our membership over here on YouTube, or you can also give us a subscription over on Twitch as well. Those are 2 ways that you can actually support us directly. And I think that's about it. So anything you want to add on, Leon?
No.
Not a moment, huh? Okay. Alright, so with all that said, thank you guys again for joining us, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!
Bye.